one-trick ponies just don't cut it anymore in our industry. If you're just in the realm of remittances, you're not going to survive.
So we're going to probably see more and more people seeking this avenue to be able to, assist them in their expansion. But yeah, we've seen him grow from maybe doing 7,000 transactions to almost 70,000 transactions now, which is huge.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the IPR Podcast, where we discuss all things payments and remittances. I'm your host, Natalie Perkins, Marketing Manager here at RemitONE, and today I'm joined by my good friends and colleagues, CMO Aamer Abedi and Head of Business Solutions, Oussama Kseibati. Today, we're going to be wrapping up 2025 and looking ahead to what's coming next in cross-border payments. We'll be focusing on topics like the rise of B2B payments, stablecoins becoming mainstream, and how to prepare for Web 3.0. So make sure you subscribe so that you never miss an episode and keep ahead of these industry trends. Aamer, Oussama, great to have you on the podcast.
Pleasure.
Let's look back at 2025. Oussama, let's come to you first on this one. So if you had to describe 2025 in one sentence, what would that be?
I could boil it a bit more down. I could describe 2025 in one word. I'll say it's been quite challenging.
Challenging. Okay, that's the takeaway. Aamer?
3 words: adaptability trumps legacy.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So what we've seen is, and I'll encompass my colleagues' word here as well, which is challenging. 2025, there's no doubt, has been a very challenging year for our industry. You can pose this question to any payments player, and I'm sure they'll say the same thing. It's been a challenging year from a regulatory perspective, from a macroeconomic perspective, geopolitical perspective. All these factors, they basically, came together to create the perfect storm for our industry. And our industry suffered greatly. We lost a lot of big players in the industry, but then again, a lot of evolution happened as well. Despite the dire economic circumstances in this industry, some payments players remained resilient, and they adapted. And that's what I mean by adaptability. And many big players relying on legacy technology and solutions, they collapsed. So this is what I mean by adaptability trumps legacy systems.
And you think maybe those smaller players that don't have to deal with these legacy systems, they're potentially in a better place to be flexible and to add, different technologies into their tech stack.
Yeah, absolutely. It just goes to show that if you are adaptable, if you are an out-of-the-box thinker, you can actually survive in any industry. I mean, you just have to be creative. You just have to be very creative to stay ahead of the curve. You have to be focused. We have a lot of data at RemitONE, of course, to see this information in real time. So we have live transactions, live payments that we can see, from which we can extrapolate trends. And really, the trend is that despite the challenging circumstances, those players, irrespective of their size, in most cases very small companies, they stole large chunks of the market share from well-established players in the industry. And we have a lot of data to support this. Yeah.
And Oussama, you mentioned it's been a challenging year. Is that because of some of the things that Aamer said, or is there anything else that you want to highlight?
No, absolutely. I'll totally agree with Aamer, and just sort of highlight as well, there's been lots of changes within regulation as well. For example, DORA being implemented, I believe, at the beginning of this year. Obviously, there are some challenges around that. What we find as well is companies that may have sort of exhausted their current their current sort of corridors and they want to expand. Again, they're facing challenges with compliance and making sure that they do fit the bill and reach that sort of compliance level, that standard, to be able to operate in those regions. So I think where the challenge is really being able to expand. I think people have found it quite challenging.
Yeah, and the compliance that comes with that. Yeah.
So understanding the minefield, which is compliance, whether it be for a specific corridor or for multiple corridors, or where it becomes even more difficult to maintain and regulate.
Okay. So two key things here is adaptability and compliance, compliance when you're trying to grow into new markets. Is there anything else that stands out from 2025?
Yeah, I would say as well the clients or the MTOs which we see have done really well and have sort of pulled away from the pack are the ones that are doing things slightly differently, where they have these they're not just handling your usual remittances, and again they're competing with 100 other providers. They might be doing something with crypto involved in it, lowering the fees and offering a different type of service, or offering more services, whether that be being able to make a utility bill payment, or whether that might be making an airtime top up within the same app, which increases customer retention and offers more than one service.
So if we then taking that point forward into like 2026, what are the MTOs that are going to, do well in 2026? What would they need to do? What do they need to be thinking about and preparing for?
Well, there are two things here. One is MTOs, and then the money transfer operators, and then you have the banks as well, right? So they each have their own paths. Oussama rightly said that those that add new products. So by product, I mean you can call it stablecoin, you can call it open banking, whatever terminology you want to use. You just have to you just have to focus on diversifying the portfolio. One trick ponies just don't cut it anymore in our industry. If you're just in the realm of remittances, you're not going to survive. Case in point, you look at the biggest brands in the payment space, in the remittance space, they are no longer one trick ponies. They are doing multiple things. But when you're a big organization, you have the luxury of focusing on multiple products at the same time. When you are a fintech company, a small to medium-sized company, a money transfer operator with, let's say, 30 to 50 staff members, you can only focus on so many products. But then the question is, if we look at our data, the real-time data that, as I mentioned earlier, that RemitONE has access to, we can clearly see that those players who diversified their product portfolio in a reasonable way, so they're not trying to, launch 100 products at the same time. We actually have data to suggest that those well-established medium-sized players who wanted to launch multiple products, they just remained stagnant. In fact, they lost their market share, significant market share they lost. But those players who are probably 10, 20, who are a 10, 20 man company, they focused on, in addition to remittances, just 2 or 3 products, and they realized significant business growth.
It might be a case of them moving from an API license up to an EMI license and start holding e-wallets and doing other types of payments, or another one quite recently, which we're seeing more prevalent, is the top-up card, or the one-off top-up card, where no longer can you just again go to your typical MTO and send money across. You can actually send a virtual card across. So what that means now is, like, if in the past you were sending cash over, it's quite limited what they can do with that cash. But if you've got a virtual card, which is obviously powered by Visa or MasterCard, then that beneficiary can go use it to purchase a Netflix subscription or make online purchases again. So it's it's really diversifying your payment methods, your services, to really, for that client retention. Obviously, having things like e-wallets. We've heard of some large companies out in the Middle East managing the payroll for the workers. So again, it's centralized, where that payroll will come to that MTO, and then that the individual, the worker, has an opportunity to partially send that back home, partially spend that, partially hold some of that on the e-wallet for a later date. So we're seeing sort of a intermingle between payments and remittances. They're sort of starting to sort of mesh together slightly now.
Okay. So just to summarize, like the diversification point. So we've got things like e-wallets, we've got prepaid cards. Is there anything else that MTOs should be thinking about when they want to diversify in 2026?
Yeah, I mean,
I would say finding the right partner. So understanding the market, finding the right partner that's offering these sort of services that you can partner with, having the right software that's able to help you expand. Are you using a legacy system that you might not be able to add all these new features and functionality on it? And again, that's gonna hold you back.
Yeah, so having a partner that already has all these integrations, you don't have to build them yourselves. You can just go to them and plug in, and they will give you all these different tools to use. I think another one that we've been talking about a lot, Amir, recently, is the eSIM, which is a good case study of how MTOs can diversify and build new revenue streams. Yeah, do you want to just mention a bit more
so
about
eSIM
this?
is so in addition to what my colleague Oussama said, yes, eSIMs are a new upcoming industry. So what I would personally call a peripheral industry to remittances, but obviously within the realm of payments, depending on how you define payments, because payments is a broad term. eSIMs, when you compare eSIMs to other services that the remittance players have been offering for the past decade or so, such as airtime, and utility bill payments, as Osama mentioned, eSIMs is unique in the sense that the profit margins are much better for all the parties involved.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, and everyone benefits because it's a new service. And what's interesting about eSIMs is that it's not transaction based. So in payments, everything is about how many transactions the MTO or the bank pushes per month, for example, right? But eSIMs is not transaction. It's not linked to the number of transactions. It's actually linked to the number of customers the MTO or the bank has, or the account holders the bank has, for example. And if you make the assumption that each customer will travel once a year, right? So if you have 10,000 customers, that's 10,000 eSIMs potentially we're looking at. So it's a very interesting model. And I think, that's in 2025 was the year for eSIM providers. And they are engulfed within the payment space, and they are a peripheral industry to the remittance industry. So now there's this, you can say, enmeshing of the two industries, right?
And I think big players like Western Union and Revolut have got these services that they're offering to their customers. And so it's all about the convenience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if these big players are doing it, then these small players must do it as well, right?
Yes.
Because they need to keep that convenience there for their customers too. Otherwise, they're going to lose them.
Absolutely. And this is where, going back to Osama's point about
Finding the right tech.
finding the right tech partner.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Natalie. If you're a small player, you have to rely on your supply chain members, your supply chain partners. You have to find the right partner to compete with the big boys
Yeah.
in the industry. They've been dominating the market for, in some cases, over a century. So we do have to diversify, but you need the right partner to diversify with. Yeah.
And what about, we haven't talked here about RAS, right? And working with your, partners to do that.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
think that's going to be something that, I know it's been big this year for 2025, we've got a lot of interest, haven't we, in RAS? Oussama, do you think this is something that's going to continue into 2026?
Absolutely, I definitely think so. Particularly looking at some of the behaviour of the regulators out there who are um, really made it, I wouldn't say more difficult, but a bit more involved to obtain a license. And there are, again, lots of startups that would like to enter the industry, but they might not have as much knowledge around the compliance or around the requirements. So what we're finding is that there are these companies offering this RAS service. And we've seen lots of interest from it, not just from startups, but from other companies that want to expand. So where they're already may have their setup in the receiving country, rather than waiting for partners to send them transaction instructions. Obviously, we all understand that it's on the sending side where the transaction is originating from, where the bulk of the profit happens. So you'll find these companies, particularly in send countries, that want to find a RAS provider so they can expand quickly without and economically without needing to go through the whole process of getting a license, and sometimes failing in getting that license because they don't quite understand the regulatory requirement in all those areas. So I definitely think we're going to see a continuation from that. I think we're seeing a lot of companies out there more focused on being aggregators. So maybe where before there were, they're setting up their networks, they have their own transactions that they're processing, but then sort of consuming other companies. So they would acquire another MTO, take all their transactions, then maybe approach other MTOs and say, hey, look, use us for your payout. We've got this all this network, obviously, because it's all volume based, so they'll be getting a great deal, and they try to pass those savings on to other people. So I think aggregators is a big one, and also a RAS will be a big one for next year.
So just wanted to add, just for the benefit of our viewers, RAS stands for Remittance-as-a-Service, and it's very interesting. What we have observed is 2025 was the year of RAS awareness, if you will. Really, I mean, in terms of the inquiries and interactions that we've had with our prospects and clients, I mean, the RAS inquiries just in 2025 alone trumps the RAS inquiries we received in the last 10 years.
Yep.
So there's a lot of interest in the UK RAS providers and European RAS providers, and of course, the US would come, third, I would say, in terms of the market interest.
Absolutely.
Right? And you have two different approaches towards RAS. This is the way the audience, this is the way they target the, what's the word? The MTOs are, the way the MTOs view RAS is different to the way banks view RAS. The MTOs, as Oussama mentioned, they don't want to have this regulatory headache, right? They don't want to have that pressure of dealing with the regulators. Regulation gets stricter and stricter day by day. They don't want to have that, but what they do have is customers. They have a customer base. You could be a travel agent, for example. You have 5,000 repeat customers, loyal customers. Now, if you could ride on the license of a RAS provider, then you've got guaranteed volumes, a guaranteed new revenue channel from your existing customer base. But when it comes to banks, it's different. Banks are used to regulation, but even the banks themselves, so some of the world's biggest banks, actually approach us, as you know. In fact, some of them are being onboarded, with us on the RAS model. And then the question is why? Why are these banks coming to us? Aren't they licensed already in the UK and Europe? Well, most of them are. But then again, it's the mindset. There's a shift in the mindset of the financial institution. The shift is that if I can outsource something, then I should outsource something so that I can provide the best possible service, right? I cannot take on that burden myself. If somebody else is the expert, let them handle that. So it's, this software as a service model, it's when it's sort of seeped into the what's the word, the psyche of uh, the payment space. It's seeped into the psyche. So everybody thinks in terms of OpEx versus CapEx, for example. So CapEx is, your capital expenditure, where you used to pay a big fee for a software license, and that's it. OpEx is operational. So on a monthly basis, you're happy to use a software on a SaaS model and just carry on paying them on a monthly basis. You're happy to do that.
I mean, you can imagine if you find the right partner for Europe, could open up 30 jurisdictions for you. Now, in terms of cost saving, how much is that going to save you in terms of having a compliance officer in each of those regions? If you tally that up, and obviously they have to do their reporting, and then there's the bank account issue on top of that. If there's a solution that can tie all of that in for you into a nice neat bow, then it really allows you to concentrate then on the business side, concentrate on the UX side, concentrate on the payout side, making sure the transactions are coming out smooth and on time, and really grow their brand. As you mentioned, a lot of them are already known. Let's look at the banks. A lot of them are already in the payout network. They're well known. They're actually handling the payout as we speak for other MTOs. So it's not a big leap for them to then turn around to the receiver and say, look, we've now got our own app in these jurisdictions.
Exactly.
Tell your relative to start using this instead. So they can focus on the business side and leave the compliance headache to someone else, which could be very challenging.
It's all about working smarter, not harder, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with the RAS model. Okay, and we've seen this year some businesses that have really done very well, and some businesses that have some MTOs that have made some mistakes. So let's have a little think and look back again at some of the MTOs that we know. What are setting MTOs apart from the successful ones? What are they doing that is propelling them forward?
Yeah. You want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a client that he's started off in the UK, now progressing to Spain, and now also going to the US. And again, he services a particular corridor, and we've seen him flourish. Particularly recently, he's taken real advantage of, without naming names, one of the large MTOs quite recently disappeared. And we found that he really took advantage of that. Not just that, it's the way he runs his business. He has stablecoin and crypto to actually make that on and off ramp and the international payment, which means he's cutting his costs quite low. Which then again he can pass those cost savings on to his customers. He's another thing which I think he's done, which is quite smart, is he's thinking big but starting small. He's tackling one corridor at a time, getting his feet in, conquering it, and then moving on to the next one, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But yeah, he's got a very good product. Another one of our clients.
Just to add, sorry, on this particular client, it's quite interesting, right? A slight tweak in the business model, for example, mentioned, and the client, I think a few years ago, they were on 5,000 transactions per annum. They're probably on
monthly. I think that was monthly. So he was doing, he's doing 5,000 at the moment from coming out from the UK. Then obviously looking at his corridor and where the diaspora are, he then went to Spain and then achieved a license over there. They do about 35,000 transactions from Spain. So now in a combination with Spain and the UK, you're looking at about 40,000 transactions per month, and growing. Hopefully, once he opens up the US Florida market in particular. But yeah, very focused, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they're starting the third or fourth corridor. There are many success stories. I mean that we can cite. In 2025, one client that we have that invested heavily on loyalty and promotions. Customer stickiness. Yeah. I mean, they have done extremely well.
Remarkably well.
In this tough market. right? They really excel. And it goes to show there's nothing like customer service, customer experience. If you can look after your customers, right? I mean, this is a textbook case.
Yeah, very focused on that. Very focused on
Loyalty.
referral points, not just referral to your own family members, not just the agent referral, but he has both. He's done clever things with, rewarding people with not just money off their fees, but things with better rates, other. So he's on other promotions as well within the actual system, like promotion codes as well. Ongoing promotions like reoccurring customer. So he's done quite a bit with that. Plus, on top of that, I think the fact that he does have a semi-super app where he is providing not just remittances, cash, bank transfer. He is doing mobile top up. He is doing utility bill payments as well. But yeah, we've seen him grow from maybe doing 7,000 transactions to almost 70,000 transactions now, which is huge.
Do you think that's driven mostly by the loyalty, or is it a bit of both? Maybe the diversification, like taking on new products like utility bill payments,
Both.
combination of the
It's a
two.
combination.
Yeah.
It's a combination, definitely.
I'd say so.
And I think, and I do feel that the ratio of promotions versus diversification, that ratio, there's no one
One size fits all. Yeah. Okay.
fits all rule here. I think that ratio will vary corridor to corridor. It depends on the behavior of the remitters,
Absolutely.
the diaspora.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example. If you're tackling the Africa corridor and you're only doing bank transfers, well, we all know that a large chunk of the population don't have bank accounts, so you've already cut them out. If you're not going to do mobile money,
Yeah.
or if you're not going to do cash, right? So it's about diversifying that to be able to capture more transactions.
And if you're advising like an MSB that is struggling to grow, what would I know you said about it can be corridor specific, but what would it be that you'd say you need to do this first?
Find the right technology provider. I think that's definitely key. Without the core system in place, well, let's take it even back a step. Yeah, let's look at the type of company that you're going to be dealing with. A lot of people make the mistake by just seeking out either a developer to develop the software in-house or a development company. Now these guys are just developers. They don't have any understanding of remittances, about the nuances, about the compliance, about the flows or anything like that. So it becomes very difficult to work with someone who doesn't quite understand the flow and how often should sanction checks be carried out, or what kind of connections are you going to need for that. How does the volume velocity check happens, and how do APIs with partners? Where are you going to get your rates from? Is there a rate feed? So there's lots to think about, and again, if you don't have a partner that's already in the industry, so not just a tech provider but a remittance tech provider, I think you're going to struggle quite a bit. So I think the key is finding a partner within the industry who's been in the industry for a while and who is multi-regional as well. Another issue you might run into, you might be based in Germany and you might find a US company to provide you with software. They might be US centric. They might miss a lot of things that the German regulator BaFin requires you to have within the system. And again, you're back to square one now and ending up sort of doing a lot of work, or even worse, getting into some trouble because the controls aren't in place, because you don't quite understand it, or the tech provider doesn't quite understand it. But moving on from that, once you partner with the right provider, a good provider should be able to not just bring you software, to bring to the table sort of an ecosystem, right, of offering. So they might say to you, okay, great, we can see that you're doing well with the bank transfer and the cash collection. We have partners that we're integrated already that might be able to do mobile money for you. Would you like us to introduce you to them? And it's a case of having that conversation, and then once they've agreed terms, then we can simply switch on that integration. So very, very quickly, they can adapt with flexibility. So not just on the on the type of transaction types, but also within the system itself. I know we spoke about loyalty points and things like that. So if they want to expand and understand how that will benefit them, there's obviously a benefit of working with someone who's done this in the past, and not just done this in the past, done it over multiple regions as well.
So, Aamer, what do you think is going to be the biggest trend moving into 2026 when you think of like Web 3.0, AI, blockchain, RAS? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to be the main thing?
All of the above. When we use the term Web 3.0, we're basically encompassing blockchain and AI. You had Web 1.0, for example, which was just the static pages of the internet, the early internet, where you couldn't interact with the internet, but you could read. So it's just read. Web 1.0. Web 2.0 was when internet evolved into an interactive interface for the audience. So the users could interact with the internet. That's where social media, mobile apps all came into play. Web 3.0 is read internet, write internet, and control, user ownership of the internet. So this is where so Web 3.0 is basically a decentralized framework built on blockchain and AI technologies. Now, the reality is this is happening everywhere. So 2026 will be the year where the remittance stroke payments industry will transition or begin transitioning in order to keep up with the other industries or verticals where Web 3.0 is expanding at a rapid pace. Blockchain, AI is already there. So 2026 should be the year of adoption, transition, stroke adoption. So, and of course, then you also have, it'll also be the year of RAS, Remittance-as-a-Service. And Oussama can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We're definitely seeing more and more live existing MTOs, money transfer operators, live existing banks, looking for this type of service, looking for this sort of partnership to enter new markets. And I think we're gonna, as compliance tightens up, as it should, we're gonna probably see more and more people seeking this avenue to be able to assist them in their expansion.
Yeah. So in 2026, we're going to see the migration of the payments industry move towards Web 3.0. So these are MTOs out there need to be thinking about this transition as well, right? And what technology provider they're using that is going to support them through this transition. Now, if I'm an MTO and I'm having some conversations with different technology providers, what are the key questions that I need to be asking them?
Yep, happy to take this. Um, so the first thing is very important. Experience. Are they currently in the industry? Where are they operating in the industry? Do they understand the landscape? Do they understand the compliance? Do they understand the operational side? Because it's not just the compliance side; it's obviously the operational side, the user experience side, the scalability side. Do they understand all that? Do they understand where the market is heading towards? Are they preparing themselves for that? For example, the Web 3.0. Have they positioned themselves in a way where they can move over quickly and adapt to the ever-changing environment? So I think the first key question would be, the experience. Seeing have they worked in this sort of environment in the past and for how long for, with, and obviously get some references. I think the second thing would be, how often do you update your system? I mean, are they proactive or reactive? Is it something that they're doing constantly? So every quarterly, they might have new features and functionality that they might have an R&D team, research and development, that are constantly working on this, right? I think that's a great benefit where again you can start to concentrate a little bit more on the business side and leave that to your partner. Do they understand this? Right? Do they understand the compliance side as well? Is this something that they've done before? I think that those are all very, very important questions you should be asking the.
And Army, let's finish with a final thought. If you want listeners to take one thing away from this session today, like what would that be?
I would say change of mindset. Mindset is very important. It's the first step to facilitating change. One thing that's permanent in life is change, right? So, and everything starts with the right mindset if you want to be successful. So, I would say MTOs, fintechs, and banks, they do need a radical, uh, they need to have a radical shift in their perspective on how they approach the industry. The reality is, you need to be creative. You need to be looking at diversifying, evolving with the times. We have a reputation in our industry of being quite old school and being slow to adapt, and that's just not going to cut it anymore. Going back to Oussama's emphasis on technology providers, I would just add that finding the right technology provider can, that can help you diversify and evolve with the changing times, with the latest technologies, coupled with their own ecosystem. So the technology provider must bring with it its own ecosystem, like we do at RemitONE, for example, right? So, and that ecosystem is very valuable. And I can talk about this a bit more, but people need to change their mindset and work with the right technology provider.
Absolutely. I mean, we can look at some examples. Some of the most successful money transfer operators these days have got backgrounds from companies that did things very archaic. For example, a brick and mortar, your whole agent model, where that was cash was king. You see your number one players, because they didn't adapt as quickly as some of the new ones that have come up. They've now been overtaken by the new ones that have come up for doing things like online payments rather than your usual physical brick and mortar. And again, if you look into those businesses, a lot of them have come from our ex-employees of some of that business, where they thought, hey, we can do this a little bit more different. Let's take the plunge. Let's do something a little bit more radical. Let's shake it up and make it more accessible for everyone. And that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah.
So I think we've learned a lot from 2025. We've learned a lot from witnessing, MTOs that have done very well this year, ones that have made maybe a few mistakes. But the key themes seem to be adaptability, diversification, and moving ahead of the curve, right? Moving quickly. So yeah, thank you, Aamer and Oussama, for joining us on the podcast today. It's great to have you with us.
My pleasure.
And thank you for everybody listening in from home. So yeah, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode and you can stay ahead of the industry trends. And we will see you next time.